Last weekend, we had a birthday party for my 11-year-old, and I was talking to one of the dads there who owns a company about having a team that was full of drama and then having a team now that has no drama. And it brought up the conversation around how do you know when it's time to let somebody go? How do you fire somebody? And I know that this can take a lot of different turns and things, and I am not a confrontational person. My personality type is very much about team and drawing the best out of people. And so I don't like confrontation. I don't like firing people. In fact, if you're anything like me, it's the least favorite, least fun thing that you have to do as a leader in business is to fire people and to let people go if they're not the right fit for the team. But when I start working with people and companies, and how do we do that? How do we know if somebody's the right fit for the team? What is the process that we use? So it's just not random. We're not just randomly going in and firing people. And it's also giving ourselves the accountability towards having the standards that we need in order to push the team forward and to move the company forward. Because if somebody's not a right fit for your team, they're actually dead weight is maybe not a nice way to say it, but they're dragging you down, or in some cases they're just causing frustration or they're causing confusion. So let's break all these things down. So there's a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, been around for a long time, and he talks about the concept of getting the right people on the bus. And he talks about having the right people in the right seat on the bus. So if we use that right people, right seat language, it will help, with that analogy of where we're going and if you have the right people on your team. So if you think about the right people, I'm not going to go into how to develop core values on this video, but you have to have core values that you are assessing things by. These are the core values that you hire from, you fire from, and that you promote from. And these core values are the things that are true to your team, and that tells you if they're a culture fit, if they're a right fit, if they're a core value fit for your team, right? Right person, right seat on the bus. So if you've determined they're a core value fit, they're the right person on the bus. The right seat then is, are they doing the job, and do they have the ability to do the job that you hired them to do? And I break this down with an acronym ADC. Do they have the ability, the desire, and the capacity? Do they have the ability? Can they actually do the job? Do they actually have the ability to do the job? The desire, do they want to be doing that job? Do they have the desire to do the job? And then third one is capacity. Do they have the capacity to do the job with all the other responsibilities that they might have? So if they're the right person, their core values fit. If they're on the right seat, that means they have the ability, they have the desire, and they have the capacity to do that. So there's a tool that I use called the culture check. And the culture check basically outlines those key components in a very objective manner. And we just take a whiteboard, we create a matrix grid, we write the person's name, we write the core values, and we write ADC at the top of the board. And something I do with people in leadership teams is something called a finger shoot. And so I say, okay, I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to say the core value, and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. And then on 3, I want you to give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a thumbs to the side. Thumbs up means that yes, this person is exemplifying this core value, or yes, they have the ability, the desire, the capacity. They don't, or sometimes yeah, sometimes no. And what we do as a leadership team is we say, this is the bar. This is what we expect from people being on the team. We can't have all thumbs downs for every core value. That means you're not a core value fit. We can't have thumbs downs if you don't have the ability, the desire, or the capacity to do the job. And why is this important? It's important because if you have the wrong person in the wrong seat, you're going backwards. That's becoming a drag to the organization. And it's not fair to you as the team leader. It's also not fair to them. Because if they're not the right person for the job, it's actually frustrating for them. And it's better for you as the leader to let them go and to find something else that is going to fit them better. Hard to do, I know, but important. So wrong person, wrong seat, not good. If they're the wrong person, they're not a core values fit, but they're the right seat, that causes frustration. They might be good at the job, but they're not a core values fit. And so whether it's attitude misalignment or laziness or whatever it is, whatever the core value that they're not exemplifying, it's causing frustration in your team because they're good at a job, but they're not helping the team culture, right? They're not helping the overall spirit of unity that you want to move your team forward. So if they're the wrong person in the right seat, you've got frustration. Now, what if it's reversed? Let's say they're the right person, but they're in the wrong seat. Well, this causes confusion, because they are a great person to be around, but they just suck at their job. Okay. In those scenarios, those are hard scenarios because you say, is there another seat? If they're the right person on the bus, is there another seat on the bus that we can put them that's available? I'm not saying that we make up a job for them just to keep them around. I'm not saying that at all. That goes back to the other tool. Again, I'm not going to talk about it here, but the idea of the roles and responsibilities organizational chart and knowing what actual positions do you need in the company to move the company forward in the next couple of years, and what are the roles and responsibilities, and does that person have the ability, desire, capacity in another role potentially for them to take on? Because if you have somebody that's a core values fit, but they're not good at the job, it just drives everybody crazy and it causes a lot of confusion. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have the right person in the right seat, that's when you actually get production. And if you have a team of right people in the right seat, you get multiplication. And that's the magic of where the company actually starts to grow and bloom and become this amazing thing. And so that's the ultimate objective when people implement the framework, is to get them to a point that they have the right people in the right seats that are doing the right things. And that is moving the company forward in a big, big way. Okay. So outside of the culture check, outside of the core values, and you're making sure somebody's in the right seat, what do you do when you have somebody that isn't aligning on those things? You just let them go? How do you deal with them? And so this is something that I call the four-strike rule. The four-strike rule. And so in the four-strike rule is I want to give people the benefit of a doubt to see if we can lay down a challenge for them to rise to the occasion. Let's say that let's say it's a core value. Let's say that one of the core values we have for the team is going the extra mile, for example. And let's say that we have a teammate that is showing up, they showed up to work late. Okay? That is not exemplifying the core value of going the extra mile. And so the first thing I do, I call strike zero. Strike zero is an informal conversation. Strike zero, I just want to go to the person and say, hey man, I just noticed you're a little late today. Just want to make sure you're good. Everything's fine. Most of the times you'll hear, oh yeah, I just slept in late, or there was a train, or whatever, right? Whatever excuse. Sometimes you might find that there was actually something major that happened in their life. And so that gives you an opportunity to build some relationship there and some rapport. Don't just come down hard on them right away. So once you've had that informal conversation, that would be strike zero. If you start seeing it to be a pattern, let's say next week, the next week, they also show up late. You have that conversation again. Say, hey man, I noticed you were late last week. I noticed you were late today. Making sure you're good. Everything okay? And so whatever information they give you, then you can say, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. Part of who we are as a company, part of the core values that we have, is that we are extra milers. Like we go the extra mile. And so that means that we're always on time. That means we're not late. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shoot you an email. I know this is the second time we've talked about it, so I'm just going to shoot a quick email. It's not like going in your file. I just need to send you an email that says, hey, we had this conversation, and I just need you to reply to that email for me. Can we do that? And then it's not going to be a problem going forward, yeah? Person says, oh, yeah, okay, right? Because you go from being an informal conversation to a more intentional conversation, and making sure that you are sending that email and you're getting a reply, just making sure that they understand that you're being serious about this. But again, it doesn't have to be this big drawn out thing. Then I call it strike two after that. Let's say the next week, they're late again. And at this point is when you introduce something called the performance improvement plan. The performance improvement plan. And the goal of the performance improvement plan is to have in writing that these are the actions, these are the things that we need you to be doing in order to stay a part of this team. So the performance improvement plan, when you give that performance improvement plan, first of all, it has to be written down. And you as the leader have to be very clear about the corrective action and outcome that you want from it. You can't just go in and say, hey, you just got to be on time all the time. Okay? Put it in writing. Say, I've noticed that you were late this day, you were late this day, and now you were late again. So we need to correct this. And so here's the performance improvement plan. And I just need you to know that we're taking this seriously. And we're going to review, make sure we'll just check in every week, make sure there's nothing that we can do on our end to make this work for you. Review that progress weekly. But then when they're on a performance improvement plan, they're on it for at least 6 months, because anybody can change for a week or two, right? But 6 months is showing that change over a long period of time. And with this specific silly example that I'm using, is you need to tie it back to the core values. Like I said, in this example, we're talking about the core value of going the extra mile. So if your core value is going the extra mile, you're saying, hey, being on time and being early is part of going that extra mile. And so if you can't be on time, it's not exemplifying this core value. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's say that it goes well, 2 or 3 weeks, it's going great. And then you get to the point that somebody's showing up late again. And then at that point, you need to then have strike 3. And strike 3 is where you let them go. In strike 2, the performance improvement plan, and in strike 3, you need to have another member of the team. If it's somebody from HR or if you're a smaller company, needs to be another member of the leadership team that is there as well to help witness it, help make sure that it is understood what is going on and the gravity of it. Now, being late, I'm using that kind of as a silly example because things do come up and people are late. But what about when it's something that is a negative attitude that's affecting the rest of the team? Or it's performance in something that they're doing, right? They're not a right seat. They're not getting the job. You need to have very clear metrics, corrective actions, outcomes, trainings that you need to, something that you can do to help this person get up to speed with some very clear things. I need to see this by this date in order to make sure that you're in the right seat. And the reason that I put it all in this package is kind of a silly word for it. It's not a package. The reason that we put it in this format is because we want to do everything that we can to help people that we want on our team. If they're a core value fit and they're just not in the right seat, we want to do everything we can to help that person win and help that person succeed. And if they're not a core value fit, then that should become pretty evident pretty quick. And what I found is that people that are not a core values fit, when you actually have some clarity for them of these are our core values and this is what it means to be on our team, and if they're a culture fit, usually those people weed themselves out pretty quick, especially if you have to have hard conversations with them and you say, hey, here's the performance improvement plan. Those people usually weed themselves out because they were not a core values fit. So I always go back to you need to have core values. If you don't have those core values, I would encourage you to get some because the core values are the measuring bar by which you need to hire and fire and promote. And some of the biggest heartaches that people have in their companies, especially starting out, is they don't have that standard. They don't have core values that is setting the standard for the organization that they can then measure people to. Hopefully that makes sense. So with this, again, I'm going to go review real quick. You need the right person in the right seat, and that has to do with the right person, meaning that they have the right core values. The right seat, meaning they're in the right position in the company based on the roles and responsibilities chart, and they have the ability, the desire, and the capacity to do that role. And if you need to have corrective action, there's 4 steps. Strike 0, informal conversation. Strike 1, an intentional conversation. Strike 2, performance improvement plan. Strike 3, sorry buddy, you're out. Hopefully that's helpful. Talk soon.